Celebrity MasterChef. What an amazing opportunity. Tell me, why did you want to take part? What was it, was it an immediate yes for you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was an immediate yes. It was actually a bit of a surprise for me. My partner actually had a sneaky phone call with my agent, and because it was always one that I said that I wanted to do. It was on my bucket list for definite. And so he had a sneaky phone call with my agent, and they cracked on with the deal without me even knowing. So yeah, and then I got a phone call from my agent saying, "Oh, this thing that we're talking about with the cooking," and I said, "What thing?" And she said, "MasterChef. You're on MasterChef 2024." And I went, so it was a great surprise kind of stitch up, really. It was fantastic.
Was that like a
Hmm.
birthday present or something? Was it just like he really wanted to do this for you?
Do over the last year, as I've been developing my skills as a cook, I've actually been saying, "Oh, now would be a really good time to go on it." It's been one that I've always wanted to do anyway. So yeah, but this year it just presented itself at the perfect time, really. So yeah.
Amazing. I wanted to talk about your cooking skills. What were they like before this? What were you doing? What are you like in the kitchen usually?
So 10 years ago, I couldn't cook at all. I mean, not a jot. I'm not from a household that cooked. It was a freezer family, as I like to call it. Pies and chips and things like that, quick stuff because everyone was at work. So I've just met people over the last kind of 10 years that have really inspired me, and people who run allotments and community gardens and things like that I never really had in my life before. So that's what's helped me develop my skills, certainly.
Have you got any sort of fond memories? Any like particular dishes that when you kind of finished it up, you were like, I'm so glad I smashed that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about any of the dishes on the telly because you'll have to watch it. No, but I mean, I've got this wonderful friend in Crouch End, where I live, and for example, on Saturday we're going to go scrumping on her allotment, and she's actually going to set up a workshop, and there's going to be about 20 of us there, and we're going to like juice the apples, and we're going to make different products at the same time. So she's a massive inspiration to me. And actually, I'll give you a little squeeze of what went on there. We actually made kimchi together for the show. So yeah, which happens at some point. So it's she's a wonderful inspiration to my cooking level, and we get together regularly and make kimchi and lots of smelly stuff for the fridges of everybody that we love.
That's the fun bit though. That's 100% the fun bit. What kind of
Yeah.
kicked off this sort of drive for cooking? What you mentioned obviously, didn't really grow up with cooking, but what was it in
Yeah.
particular that you wanted to try?
As I got older, I found that cooking well, particularly with like great produce and things like that, I didn't really have a lot of access to stuff like that growing up. But living in Crouch End, now what, you're bombarded by all this wonderful fruit and veg and local sellers and cheese shops. I mean, I'd never even been in one of them when I was a kid. So that kind of like inspires you to go further, and also health. Like I'm really starting to realize that the better you eat, the more your brain is less foggy and things like that. And it's a joy to cook, and people say, "Oh, that was really nice."
I love that. And when you start on this cooking journey, there are obviously just like mishaps and all mistakes along the way. Has there been any kind of like little mishaps as you've been on this journey for your cooking journey?
Do mine's like spillage, man. Like I was messy. I think it might be to do with the adrenaline as well, because I obviously went back and watched the series before just to see what I was letting myself in for. And for me, is 100% the messiness, man. I couldn't stop dropping things. It's it's adrenaline coursing through your veins, of course, and you're not used to the environment. The kitchen is totally different to your own at home, of course, and the knives are a lot sharper. Um, so everybody chops the fingers off in the first kind of couple of days getting used to the sharp knives. But other than that, no, I was just a bit of a messy Jessie.
Excellent. And anything as well, sort of in preparation for this at home, like anything that you kind of, burn or anything like that in particular?
Well, I think it was more to do with the fact that my partner Mark, he was just sick to death of the recipes. I mean, the poor guy ate them about a million times. He's just like, no more. He was like, I never want to see any of those recipes again. So he'll be glad to watch the show and realize that he never actually has to eat any of that stuff again.
I love that. I love that. Now, you talk about the adrenaline pumping because I
Yeah,
can understand being in front of John and Greg and having to
yeah,
cook for them.
yeah.
What on earth was that like? How was that pressure in that kitchen? How did you kind of deal with all that pressure?
I mean, it's very intense pressure, and also the time as well. So it's kind of like an hour and a half to an hour 15 or an hour to create something from beginning to end. And as everyone knows, you know, when you go to a restaurant, it's all prepped as much as possible up to the point. So actually plating a plate of food is about placement, but a lot of it is already prepared. But when you're doing it from scratch, and then on top of that, John and Greg kind of coming around and giving you tips. But don't get me wrong, they're lovely. They do help as much as possible without kind of breaking the competition. So the tips that you get from them guys are, you know, they'll stay with you for life. They're really, really great tips on how to, you know, cook meat well, the look of it, the smell. It just little tips which I wasn't expecting them to give. I didn't know whether or not you would see that in them, or whether they'd be like the cold judges that don't want to give anything away. But no, they're really fab, and they're actually a good laugh as well. I know, yeah, they're a good laugh off camera as well. So it was just it was a great environment to be in.
I wanted to ask actually, did you learn what was the lessons that you learned during the show? I mean, culinary, personal, things like that. What were the kind of
Oh
big
my,
takeaways?
well, I learned how truly difficult it is to be a chef for sure. And that it's not just a run-of-the-mill job. It's really, you're pushing 55, 60 hours a week. And to me, it's craftsmanship on a different level. I mean, you meet people along the way of the process, and you kind of asking them, how long have you done a recipe like that? And they'll say, 5 years straight. And of course, it's perfection, but I think people underestimate how long things take to perfect within the cooking industry. But yeah, little tips like double frying a piece of meat that's been got batter on it. To double fry it, you get the crispy outer edge and the soft in the middle. Little tips like that you're like, oh yeah, that's so helpful.
And as well, did you learn anything from your fellow celebs? You're all kind of in this together, but some people, come in with different techniques and everything like that. Was there anything like that as well?
Oh, I mean, the skill level, I think this year, I might be being biased, but it's I think the skill level is super high. What I noticed about everybody who I met along the process, everybody was super well traveled. And collectively, I think that we all felt the same about like travel alongside food. There was a lot of talk about that. Like there was a lot of memories gifted within the recipes that the others did as well as with me. And that's a great inspiration, isn't it, for food? And you don't even think about that. Not a lot of and family is such a great inspiration for some people as well, and like wanting to see what your kids want and things like that. Like it was a really humbling experience because you got to know people truthfully rather than just through work. I know we were at work, but it was a very humbling experience to just learn through food what people like and what they don't like. It was a very interesting thing for me, that.
It is an oddly personal thing, as I think, as well for food, because
Yes.
like, we all grow up very differently. What did you find that as
Yeah.
well? You were kind of like getting to grips with a lot of kind of like personal stories too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. A lot of personal stories, a lot of memory, because you're right, it is so personal, and it is memory, smell, food, taste. It's all combined into one thing. And I think food with a story often tastes better. Would be
I
my
love
opinion
that.
after doing the show. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That should be the strap line.
Yeah, it
Um,
should today, actually.
I mean, MasterChef has been on for a really long time. Did you have any kind
Yeah.
of friends that had been on it before that you kind of reached out for advice, or were you going into this completely fresh?
I mean, to be honest, no, I didn't have any personal friends that I'd known that had been on it, but I had a couple of friends of friends that have been on it. But they can't they what I love about this show is once you've been on it, you don't want to spoil it for anybody else. So you know, like my friend of a friend who's a close friend of mine, the friend of a friend, and he kind of said, oh, but he doesn't want you to ask him any advice because he don't want to drop. He don't want to like drop himself in it, or you know, he wants you to feel the competition for what it is, truthfully. And I think that I would be like that going forward as well. I'd be like, no, you've just got to experience it, man. Yeah, it's there's no tips, and it changes every year anyway, slightly. So there's no way that you can set yourself up and try and win the thing before you get there. Yeah.
Absolutely fair enough. I wanted to ask, obviously going through this journey, you learn so
Of
much, everything, making dishes that maybe you've never even dreamt of making before. Is there one food dish no money can buy? What is the one thing that you wish you could make and absolutely smash it out the park as well?
Oh, I mean, anything to do with kind of pastry, because with the times, there's not really a lot of time to develop skills within like like puff pastry and things like that, because you actually need an overnight system for that and things like that. I'd love to become, a patisserie and work out in France for a few months, because there's skills that you actually need hours and hours for. That's something that I would definitely love to develop in the future for sure.
There we go. Next career move off to France making pastries. That is actually the dream.
Come on, BBC, sort me out, mate.
Oh, I love it. What would you say was kind of, as well as sort of being the sort of takeaway of it, the biggest challenge that you overcame in this? Was it there something that you were like really hoping to achieve that you actually managed to do?
Well, it was to get from A to B. I know that sounds really simple, but it when you first start, you think, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get to the end. To be able to have a through line in a calm, slightly less nervous journey to the end. That's when you kind of like, blooming heck, I'm feeling like I can do this. That was a big thing for me, being able to get from A to B. Typical
Oh,
in
you
my
make it
life.
sound simple, but I completely see it. I completely see it.
Yeah.
Now that you've handled the heat of the MasterChef kitchen, are there any other shows that you're like, I reckon I could do that now. I can take that pressure now.
Well, one that I've got my eye on is Race Across the World. I mean, woo! Not only for the travel, that's my other love, travel and food. I mean, who doesn't love that? But yeah, no, Race Across the World. I love that, the concept of traveling across the planet without a phone. We always talk about this whenever we go abroad. When I was actually 19, I went to India and there wasn't the internet then. You couldn't use booking.com or anything like that. It just wasn't structurally available. The internet existed, but it just that whole world wasn't a thing, and you had to go into places and write things down on pieces of paper, and it was a really scary thing to do. But that show brings that concept back up, having to talk to locals, risk it for a biscuit. I adore that show as well, so that would be the only one that I'd think about doing.
How do you think you would fare? Because it started again, like the celeb one started again last night, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I could actually ever do that. I think I would just freak out. How do you think you would fare?
I'd like to think that I would do well, but it gets a bit hairy between, because it's always like people's partners or moms or sisters or yeah, it gets a bit spicy between them, doesn't it? It gets feeling very hot. So I'm sure I'd lose it, a few times. And but you just got to drive through, and you've just got to get back on that 17-hour bus and sweat it out.
Oh, the dream, the absolute
Oh,
dream.
no, absolute dream.
And just very, very finally, I'm sure you've sort of had this a lot, but obviously I feel like the cast of Line of Duty talk about this also openly quite a lot. If they were to come back for a seventh series, if you got that phone call, would you come back? Would you dream of coming back?
Are you kidding me? Yes, yes, and yes. Um, No, do you know they're a fabulous team? I've been working with Martin quite a lot recently over the last 2 years on the rig. And my partner Mark's been working quite a lot with Vicky. So we're like we know each other. We're actually mates and all that now. So it would be an honour to go back on. Of course it would. I'd love to go slit some more throats. Who don't
I
want
love
to do that?
I love that you're basically all still like you're basically all doing Line of Duty now anyways. You all sort of hang out. I love that.
I know, it's like the cross contamination here is like it's such a small world. We love it, and we love that team. We love World Productions, and yeah, it's been such a wonderful thing for me and mine. So yeah, why not? I would 100% do it. I love the cast that they get together as well. They're always top notch British peeps. So yeah, that's what we like.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Rochenda, thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for having me.
Virgin Radio.